Welcome to Gracefully Imperfect, a podcast for the all-encompassing Black man, the professional, the entrepreneur, the student, the family man, the father, and the everyday survivor. I'm your host, Semantic 7. And on this journey together, we will discuss all things related to fatherhood and parenting, morality and ethics, striving to become mentally healthy, our role within our households and our family, health and fitness, and I dare not to forget, there will be a lot of sharing of our personal developmental stories that have shaped us to who we are today. So let's go on this journey together and center our consciousness, relax our mind, off we go to the depths below. Peace, love, blessings, and abundance to all of you who are tuning in on this episode of Gracefully Imperfect. No matter where you are in space and time, in your car, walking, jogging, in your home, at your workplace, I am grateful and thankful for all of you who have tuned in for another episode, or even if this is your first episode. And you all heard correctly. This is no longer semantically imperfect. The podcast has changed to Gracefully Imperfect. And the gracefully imperfect change all came about because I want to touch individual lives. I want to help facilitate change within individuals who are overly self-critical, who beat themselves up, who put on this facade that nothing can break them down, nothing can hurt their feelings, nothing can ruin the progress that they made in their life, whether it's professionally, spiritually, personally, or even mentally. Gracefully Imperfect is about embracing our humanity. The core of humanity is development, growth, experience, and what we ascertain from those experiences to provide a blueprint and a frame of reference to move forward. So, with all that in mind, I thought that it was only befitting to change the name of the podcast to reflect every one of you who is willing, who is ready, and who have the capacity to go on this journey with me, because I'm still a work in progress as well. And I believe that we have to have a space to where we can be our most emotional, vulnerable, and imperfect selves. So again, Gracefully Imperfect is about you, your journey, your experience, you in the here and now, moment to moment, minute to minute, hour to hour, year to year. That's what we all are. And I hope that this would touch at least one of you, in a way that can influence, serve, and help other people who are battling with the notion of perfection, because there is no such thing. And we can only get better by how much understanding, insight, and acknowledgement of those experiences that have shaped us. Because without that, there's no learning curve. So gratitude to all of you. Gratitude to the Creator for providing me the ability, the resources, the capacity to be on to host another week, to host another episode. I don't take any of this for granted. I'm extremely grateful that I finally got this podcast up and running after months of conceptualizing and ruminating on all the different possibilities and all the equipment, breakdown of the topics, etc. And here we are. So this is season 2. Every season will have 7 episodes. 7 represents knowledge, wisdom, excellence for any of those who study numerology. So we're going to keep it at 7. And so this is the first episode in the new season of Gracefully Imperfect. And luckily, today is still Poetry Month, National Poetry Month. And because this is Monday, we are still going to provide this dedicated space for Poetic Prose Monday. And for those that don't know what Poetic Prose Monday is all about, Poetic Prose Monday is a place where we show appreciation to the art form of poetry. I will recite a poem that I have personally developed, and then I will go into my creative process. And hopefully, as I share with you all the creative process that has facilitated the production of this poem, for all you artists, enthusiasts, lovers of any art form, or lovers of poetry, you can get a bird's eye view of how this piece came to be. I don't think we see enough of the artist actually breaking down how a song was created, how a book went from manuscript to publication, how a poem went from words on a napkin to the New York Times. And so I'm not a big shot like a lot of those individuals that have that platform, but I believe that to understand me, to understand my personal perspective of this art form and how I champion it through my writing and through my and through and how my mind works, I think that a greater appreciation can be given to the art form. So without any further ado, I want to share with you all a poem that I wrote It's called Xanadu. If you were given a golden ticket, would you embark on a journey to a destination free of oppression, contempt, ridicule, and scorn? Take me to a place where there is an abundance of riches, rubies, and gold, where class, race, and membership is deemed obsolete, and content of character is the evaluative criteria of one's spirit and soul. A place where disaster and destruction are replaced with unlimited aesthetic beauty and splendor, promoting infinite space for expression and effable love served with a side of exuberance, producing a chemical reaction dependent on the process of social infusion. Synergy is a forceful phenomenon, allowing intersecting minds and hearts to achieve true alignment in real time. There is no greater feeling than feeling neurologically connected with similar and contrary minds. An extraordinary oasis for people of all cultures, origins, and creeds coming together in harmony, believing in an alternative to moral living without the codification of institutional policies. Allow your imagination to wander in awe without limitation and restraint. Awaken an inner Xanadu for you to strive and thrive. And that's Xanadu, y'all. And so when I created this, I created this back in mid to late 2020 after the witness of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. Uh, it was a bunch of different situations that transpired. Ahmaud Arbery, Elijah McCain. And so I was thinking about all of this pain and suffering going on in this world, especially for those who are melanated and who have been ridiculed and harassed and discriminated against for hundreds and hundreds of years. And as I was really ruminating on that, I didn't come up with any solution. I didn't come up with any plan of action to fight against the injustices. All I came up with was questions. Why is the world so dark? Why is there a target on those with melanated skin? Will there ever be a place on this physical world or spiritual world where we can all coexist fruitfully in abundance with nothing but love, empathy, compassion, and mutual understanding? And this is what I love about poetry. Poetry is in everything. I was watching Non-Perfect Strangers. And for any of you who have not watched it on Hulu, it is worth watching. It's binge worthy. And as I'm watching Non-Perfect Strangers, Regina Hall's character, they all took a psychedelic and they're at this wellness retreat. And Regina Hall's character is battling some insecurity and self-consciousness issues that stemmed around her divorce. And after taking this psychedelic, she's she's in a state of I would say extreme exuberance. She's high, y'all. And she's listening to this song. And I couldn't make out who the artist was or what even what the title of the song was called. But it kept repeating the word Xanadu, Xanadu. And Regina Hall is standing on the bed. Her eyes are closed. Her body is moving side to side. She's swaying and grooving. Her hands are moving carelessly. And as I'm watching her she's in another dimension. And as I'm watching her in this other dimension full of just pure happiness and joyfulness, the question, the underlying question was, what is a Xanadu? And why is this word, Xanadu, creating so much happiness and for this individual who's been battling these issues of self-consciousness and insecurity? And so I had to put on my research hat and learn what a Xanadu was all about. And what I learned from that is a Xanadu is an idyllic place. It's as simple as that. Historically, it was a capital in the Mongolian Empire that was filled with aesthetic beauty, gardens, sunshine, beautiful people getting along, artists, luminaries. And the next reference was a poem that was written by a man. His name was Charles, I'm sorry, Samuel Coleridge. In the 1700s, he made a poem and he referenced a Xanadu being an idyllic place. And so here I am, armed with that information about the historical origins of a Xanadu, and then also observing how just conceptualizing a Xanadu or uttering the words of the Xanadu when knowing what a Xanadu is creates such profound happiness that it's intoxicating. And so after en- entrenching myself in all of these tragedies and issues of injustices and having all these underlying questions about why are we being targeted? Why is there so much pain and chaos? Can we ever coexist in harmony? I started to uh, use my own imagination to sculpt out a Xanadu based off of love, free of oppression, free of discrimination, free of xenophobia, and a Xanadu that promotes inclusivity, champions diversity and culture, and is grounded in utmost equity. So I allowed my imagination to roam, building this Xanadu brick by brick. And as I was doing this, I like any other situation where thoughts become very deep, very process oriented, I grabbed my notepad and my pen and I said, the best way that I can build this is through poetry. And so as I grabbed my pen and my paper, I started to write out what a Xanadu looks like for me, given the conditions of our criminal justice system and given the circumstances for all of the innocent Black folks and people of color who have been exploited, abused, taken advantage of, and killed without remorse. And so as I'm building this Xanadu with my words, my writing, and my thoughts of imagination, I'm going to tell you that it was very difficult. And the reason why it was so difficult is because this was the first time since I was a child of allowing my imagination to not have any bounds, no restrictions, and no limitations. Being in the military thwarted my creative process. When I was in the military, I was task driven, goal oriented. If it's not rooted in reality, then in my mind, it doesn't need to be, there should be no energy directed towards it. And so my creativity and my creative process took a back seat for 12 years. And so here I am trying to tap in to that creative side of me that's buried deep. And this was the first piece since my adolescence that really, really relied heavily on do not allow your mind to restrict and limit all possibilities. And don't get me wrong, it took me a while to write this piece. I want to say that it took me about 2.5 weeks. And I spent about 2 hours a day getting words on paper and then perfecting the format so that it flowed, so that it was concise. I was exercising proper diction and brevity, and that it can still seem attainable. So my Xanadu became how I would like to change the heart and the minds of people. You could also say that it was a call to action for me. I know that I'm not going to be able to create an actual environment where all of us are living in complete harmony, free from violence, discrimination, oppression. But but my aim is to touch someone that this resonates with, to use the power of their mind and their imagination to create their own Xanadu, and to use that as a means to live intentional, to be purposeful in your actions and your behavior, and find ways to make impact based off of the values, priorities, the virtues underlying that inner Xanadu that you created. Because if you look at your Xanadu, it will tell you the type of person that you want to be and the type of person that just needs a little nudge and push to manifest in our physical world. So I encourage all of you, don't allow the atrocities, the plight of, of ethnic groups and culturally diverse groups to hinder your superpower of thinking profoundly and using your creative imagination. Your Xanadu is a gateway to a deeper understanding of yourself, your purpose, your vision, and your mission. And also, it takes off a lot of the burden that this world places on all of us, especially those who internalize a lot of the issues and problems that plague within our communities and even outside the borders. I wanna thank you all for allowing me to share this poetic piece called Xanadu. I really appreciate you all trusting the platform, trusting this safe haven to just open your ears and opening your mind and not allow judgment and allow self-criticism, concerns and worries and anxiety to hinder another perspective and another outlook. I want to leave you all with the quote of the day. And what I like about this quote of the day is that it reminds all of us that even though pain and suffering is inevitable, it's what you make of it. I know the world is bruised and bleeding, and though it is important not to ignore its pain, it is also critical to refuse to succumb to its malevolence. Like failure, chaos contains information that can lead to knowledge, even wisdom, like art. Toni Morrison. So thank you all for being a part of this first episode of the second season of Gracefully Imperfect. For all of you who are not familiar, show us some love on Instagram at semantically_imperfect. Hit up the email, send us any inquiries, questions you would like addressed, testimonies to Poetic semantics7@gmail.com. And then also subscribe to the podcast through Anchor, Spotify, Apple. Leave us a review, check those stars, let us know how this podcast is doing for you in your life. It's been an honor and a privilege of being here with all of you one more time, and I cannot wait to share, to talk with all of you on the next episode. Peace, love, and prosperity, y'all.